Right. Good afternoon or good day to everyone. Welcome to our program on From HR Programs to Organization Design. This is the first collaboration between World Academy for Research and Development and Talent Reach. My name is Aimee Torla. I am the project manager for Talent Reach, and will be co-facilitating this program today. I'd like to thank everyone who's joining us. We're excited to have HR professionals, leaders, practitioners, for this executive dialogue, where we will talk about how organizations can move beyond just implementing HR programs and start designing workplaces that truly support people and business growth. So, this session is actually meant to be practical, insightful, and conversational. So, you can expect um, to gain or real experiences, fresh perspectives, and valuable ideas from our speakers and panelists, which you can apply in your own organization. So, wherever you're joining us from, welcome and thank you for being here. And we hope that you enjoyed today's discussion. All right, so I would like to begin by introducing our speakers and panelists. So, let me start off with our main host, Mr. Ronaldo Turla. He is the founder and managing director of Talent Reach Consulting. He's a certified organization and development professional, also a certified human resource professional, and a certified social and emotional intelligence coach. Our next panelist is Mr. Eric Del Castillo. He is a seasoned HR executive with over 30 years of experience in human resources, leadership development, and talent management. And he's currently the senior general manager and vice president for human resources at the Nissan Motor Corporation. And of course, we're also joined by another panelist, Mr. Eric Reyes. He is a strategic HR professional with nearly 40 years of experience leading HR functions in top companies like Ross Holdings, Manila Water, and Globe Telecom. He's a fellow in people management, and he's now an independent HR consultant and executive coach. And the one who opened the room earlier, we're also joined by Mr. Towed Hossein. He's the deputy manager um, in operations of World Academy for Research and Development. He will be sharing with us some more details about the diverse programs of World Academy. So there, I now open the floor to our main host and speaker, Mr. Ronaldo Burla.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar in collaboration with World Academy. This is Ronnie Turla, and we are representing Talent Beach Consulting. So we're happy and excited at the same time to welcome all of you here. We were expecting really a large number of participants coming here for today. And today, marks a very good opportunity for the Philippines, no? Because this webinar again is a collaboration between World Academy and Talent Beach Consulting. So this year, no, we have decided to collaborate with World Academy so that World Academy can offer and bring the programs global certification in the Philippines. So that's really a good news. So can you give me a thumbs up sign if you think that is good news, no? Especially for those who are here who are Filipino. So I see that we have Filipinos here who are attending today. So that's actually a good sign, no, that we are, embracing our global perspective, no. So for today, we're going to have what we call, a topic, which is quite unconventional, I would say, no. But I hope that this will be insightful for everyone who's joining us for today. And of course, we'd like to first, no, also aside from thanking World Academy, we'd like to acknowledge, our invited panelists for today. So Mr. Eric Reyes and also Mr. Eric Del Castillo. No? So Mr. Eric Del Castillo, if you remember, for some of us who probably attended some of our webinar months ago, no, when we conducted last year in 2025, we invited him to give a short webinar. So, and I hope during that time. Some of you, no, I don't know if some of you were there who attended that particular program. Okay, so again, for this afternoon, let me again walk you through what we're going to do for this afternoon, no? So um, today's webinar veers away from the typical information sharing that we will be doing with regards to the field of human resource and as well as organizational development. So as I've mentioned, the partnership that we've had with World Academy offering its global certification, no, enabled us to be able to see an opportunity of what we can offer to the Philippines. So for this afternoon, we're going to talk about, no, and have a dialogue regarding a topic that is not usually discussed commonly in a lot of circles, particularly if you are in the human resource management field. No? So I know that some of you here are in the human resource field, right? Can you type one if you are an HR professional or an HR practitioner, so that we can try to see if some of you are in the field of human resource management? Yeah, so let me check.
Majority are in the HR profession, seeing that the numbers are mostly one.
Mhm. Yeah, which is actually good because this particular webinar will focus on not necessarily human resource management. As we will see, for a lot of us who are in the HR field, um, the term organizational development or OD, no, seems to be a little bit, unfamiliar. No, to a certain extent, we can say that HR is actually an umbrella. It's under, no, the umbrella of organizational development or OD. No, so that's why for a lot of us, especially if you're in the Philippines, no, OD is something that is quite very specialized, as I would say. Okay, so again, no, let's try. Aini, can we try to remind, no, our participants to put their audio on silent? Aini.
Yes, let's just have a few house rules. Okay, so if you have questions, you're welcome to put them on the chat box. All right. You make sure that you put them on the chat box and it's related to the topic, and also to minimize distractions and we can have a smooth program. Make sure that your audio is on mute. And we will be answering the questions in the order that we receive them. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So to proceed, no, with our uh, dialogue and our webinar for this afternoon, um, let me again, no, give some brief introduction of what we're going to discuss for this afternoon. Okay. So again, as you can see in my slide here, you can see that we're talking about the OD capability, no, for real transformation. So today's dialogue will focus, and it is meant not to be a lecture. It is not a training per se. No? It is a conversation that we'd like to have. That's the reason why we invited panel speakers aside from yours truly to talk about a particular topic. No, so in this conversation, uh, we look at the reality that organizations don't fail because of strategy, no? But they fail because they cannot execute transformation. So our goal today is very simple. No? We would like to understand why this is happening, and with the collective experience that I have as a speaker as well as our panelists for this afternoon, that's what we're going to discover. No? So consider this as a I call this as a social learning, no? Because social learning is something important for all of us because There could be, learning where we are self-directed, we attend webinars, we read books, we listen to podcasts, for example. But nowadays, it's also important to learn from other people, uh, peers, mentors, and coaches. And social learning seems to have, that kind of impact for a lot of people. Okay, so that this is a reality that we have, right? So, um, let's begin with some recurring symptoms. No? As you can see here, when you look at the symptoms in organization, you can see that sometimes certain things can happen, like initiatives can lose momentum inside the organization. So, like for example, if a sort of program or a initiative is created usually by HR or the ODT, um, it could start with the kickoff, but eventually it could lose some steam. And after the kickoff, nothing happened. Okay. So that could be a symptom that something has to be addressed. Right? Okay. Another organizational symptom that we can see in organization is that silos persist. Departments compete, instead of collaborating. And again, I've had personal experiences on this, that in organizations, people tend to have the silo mentality. When I say silo mentality, departments could create their subculture. And when departments create their subculture, they tend not to collaborate, but instead, compete with other departments. No? It's not saying that competition is not required in an organization, but nowadays it's more of collaboration that we're looking at. So that's why, again, having silos inside organization is a symptom in terms of organizational problems. Third, symptom in terms of organizational symptoms would be the change is not sustained. Um, this could happen where improvements can revert within months. No? So if we're looking at some initiatives in terms of change management, we can see that some organizations try to lose out on the change management aspect. No? So in short, no, change is not sustained in organization. So, so again, as participants, I'd like you to join in this particular conversation as we uh, talk about later, no? Especially when we listen to the panel. We try to look at why do you think, why does our panel think it happens to us that change is not sustained? No? The fourth recurring organizational symptom is that relatively, same problems repeat yearly. And I'm always a believer of problem solving, and when problems tend to recur, that means that certain root causes were not considered. So when we address certain problems in organizations, we have to remember that we have to be able to address the root cause and not just offer the program. So again, all of these are signals of a deeper um, capability gap inside the organization, which now leads us to the three truths. No? Market reality is that, for number one, there is no change architecture. So organizations will try to attempt transformation without some capability, structural capability to execute it. So that's one reality when it comes to, again, I'm talking about the Philippine context here. No? So that's why for our Filipino participants today, so I'd like us to realize that this is happening in our organizations. No? And of course, for our foreign participants and foreign attendees for today, probably, you can also relate if this is happening to you in your own respective organization. Okay. The second reality here is that HR is without OD capability. I've seen this happen. HR is expected to drive transformation, but usually HR has the operational capability. If you're handling the traditional recruitment, uh, compensation and benefits, employee relations, and all the other functions of traditional HR, but we lack the dedicated capability of OD and as well the framework to work with regards to organizational development. So that's the second reality here. The third reality here, unfortunately, is that OD tends to be misunderstood. So OD, if you are designated as an OD practitioner inside your organization, OD can be treated as programs, interventions. No, from what I know, no, of some or OD practitioners, no, they are meant to design, no, team building programs, no, of some sort, no, and they're expected to run these programs, no, but it ends there, no. So whenever that happens, we see, no, that OD can be misunderstood in organization. Okay, so hence this is the reality that we're trying to set here, and for this particular group, no, we would like us to be able to, get some clarity as to why these things are happening to us. No, so I hope that I was able to set the background of our conversation for this afternoon. Okay, so to usher us in to our panel discussion, no, which will be our main highlight for this afternoon. No? So I'd like us to um, I'd like to invite. No, I think they're present here as well. So let me invite Mr. Eric Del Castillo. If you're here, kindly open your cam. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you for joining again. I appreciate your presence. And of course, we have another Eric in this case. No, so I actually got that comment from the two. No, so we have Mr. Eric Reyes present us with us today. No, so we are with esteemed HR and OD practitioners in the room right now. So okay, let me allow first. No, maybe some words first from Eric. Del Castillo, and then after Eric Graves, for a brief introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ronnie, for giving me another chance to join in this World Academy session. And I'm excited to be in the same room as my kayo, Eric Reyes, who's my senior. Of course, he's well placed during his time, no, and has been ano na, experienced HR too. And I'm happy to be here and join this conversation. I like OD. I really like this topic very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Okay, how about Mr. Eric? Okay.
Eric too.
Thank you, Ronnie, for having me here. First of all, I'd like to thank Eric also, may tokayo, ano? We've been um, we've been sharing a lot of things, a lot of passion, especially on social media, on several topics. And one of them, of course, is HR. And I'm excited to share with you some of the experiences I've gained as far as this topic is concerned. So hello to everyone.
So thank you, Mr. Eric Reyes and Mr. Eric Del Castillo. No? So again, no, I'd like to thank them and expect that there will be future, no, so future webinar offerings. No, we will definitely invite them as well for our future offerings. So please expect that. No, okay. So let's talk about first. No, since we're talking about our panel discussion, the first question that I'd like to throw no to our panelist or panel speaker is what are the biggest challenges that we face when trying to implement change in an organization. So based on your own experiences, so I know that you have had a lot of company experiences or organizational experiences. So I'd like to hear from you. No? So we'll start with Eric Del Castillo first. So Eric one, and then we'll also listen to Eric two in this case. So okay, let me give the floor to Eric. No? So again, the
Yes.
question is, what are the biggest challenges in terms of trying to implement change? No? Because usually OD is connected with change, right?
Yes, thank you very much, Ronnie, again. As you know, no, I'm working with Nissan Philippines. This is part of the bigger group Nissan Global, no, where I sit as head of HR for the Philippines, and I do a bit of ASEAN special projects. No, you wouldn't believe that in my 11 years, almost 11 years with the company, I've had seven ex-CEOs already. So imagine the change that I have gone through over the last 11 years, that I would change CEOs almost every 2 years, or there was a time 3 years, but just very recently we had CEO change every year. And how would HR manage those changes? There would definitely be a lot of things to do. And one of the challenges that I believe is, of course, people getting anxious about the change again. Imagine just to ensure that transformation or the transition is done in a way where people will accept readily. It would take you about 2 to 3 months, and just in the next 8 months you'll change again. So imagine the change that's happening in my organization. But even then, we have to face reality, because that's what is asked of us. So HR, with all those anxieties, fears, and people who are always facing those changes, we have to prepare. I think that's one of the things that we have to do as HR. We always have to be ready with our plan, okay? Knowing that this is
Mm-hmm.
happening and this is a reality already in the business that we have to face. We always have to have a plan, communication plan. That's very important to us
Mm-hmm.
in order to for our people to manage change easily. So the biggest challenge is how to manage anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you, Eric, for that. And I'm also hearing from what Eric has mentioned. There could be that kind of anxiety could lead to sort of like an initiative fatigue, no? Because
Yeah.
sometimes the reason why we can be stressed is because there could be that kind of fatigue, no? And I can totally relate with that, no? Because I know for some organizations that tends to change presidents and executives for several periods, no? In that case, no? And in that case, if you're in HR, if you're in the middle of all of those changes, you can definitely experience a lot of that anxiety of, trying to adjust one administration or executives, for example, to the other. No? So that's why I'm seeing that there is that. I can definitely agree with the anxiety that we're experiencing. Okay. How about Eric Reyes? Can you also share with us with the same question regarding what are the typical things or challenges that you've encountered?
Yeah. Um, I ano, I'm privileged. I was privileged to have worked with two major conglomerates in the Philippines. That's Ayala Group and the MVP Group for several years. And I'm retired already. I'm putting that in context because I think I'm the most senior in terms of age in the audience right now. The reason I'm telling you this because many, many decades ago, I think my tokayo Eric is still in elementary by then. I, I, I grew up in an era where HR can do anything. Meaning,
Mm-mm.
if you have the budget,
Mhm,
just do that. But the latest trend is this, the latest book is this, the latest seminar is
mhm.
this. You can just do that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the problem with that approach is that you don't have the buy-in of the line. There's a misalignment somewhere of the values or the
Mhm,
principles or the priorities of the line. That's why when I was
mhm,
still working in corporate, one of my favorite philosophies in HR that I always tell my team is that when we do change management programs or HR programs, you should be corporate, meaning this is not an HR program because once the line sees this as an HR program, they will not give this priority. For example, it's also HR's fault. Meaning we don't even ask the line
mhm.
what do they need, what does the business need.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Yeah.
another problem is that since we don't align with line management or operations, what we do is just consider these change programs or whatever training, whatever programs that we will do, without even consulting the line as far as their schedule is concerned, as far as the
Mhm,
priorities are concerned. So
mhm,
that's why one
mhm,
of the major issues or barriers, obstacles given these change management programs in ODs, that the line sometimes think that these programs are hindrances,
Mm,
obstacles to
mm,
performing their
yeah.
own accountability. In other words, HR or change
Mm-hmm.
management competes with the line. That's why
Yeah.
given this status, given this state, the line would say, I'd rather do my work because I'm measured.
Mm,
I'm
mm,
rewarded or even reprimanded for not being able to meet our own scorecards. And that scorecard
mm-hmm.
is just HR's, just change management. So that is a
Yeah.
major hindrance, major problem. If we are not aligned with the line or with the operations, definitely it is a ground for failure, almost a ground
Mm-hmm.
for failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Eric, for that. No? And yeah, again, no, I'm gaining a lot of wisdom from what Eric is mentioning. No, he said about misalignment. No, so which really can happen if you're in HR, if you're an HR practitioner, if you insist, no, that the programs that you're trying to cater, no, to the organization, it's just your own program. No, so the identity of the program can be misaligned. No, that's the reason why the line or department heads, for example, can put up some resistance to change. Or they can say, "Na, why do we have to do this?" For example, no, timing could be of the essence in this case. So that I think that's why we are seeing, as I've mentioned in my introduction, there is that kind of capability gap, no, that we're seeing, no, especially if you're in HR. If you have grown up, no, in terms of the traditional HR operations, so and you don't have the perspective of organizational development. So if you're going to initiate change, no, so what can happen is that you can just try to offer change to the organization, but without thinking that change should happen by design, and it's not just simply we'd like to break that kind of mentality that it's just a simple program. No? It can probably start as a simple program, but we have to consider everything else, no? Because organizations, in this case, is a living, it's a living thing. No? We are composed different individuals. No? So, and as HR, we have to consider that. No? So, it's not always that we have the upper hand when we initiate this program, no? But we do have to learn how to listen and consider, no? The ideas and concerns as well of the department heads. So in this case, I think definitely I can see that, of course, as we've mentioned, there's not fatigue and there's anxiety, as well as the misalignments, and of course the resistance to change. Um, I'd like to ask that for both, no, Eric Del Castillo. So, have you had any kind of resistance, no, coming from department heads, no? And I'm curious, how did you deal with such resistance during your change effort in the company? Let me
Yeah,
ask first, Eric.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead, Tokayo.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Definitely, resistance is a given. And whenever you
Mm,
introduce some changes in the organization, resistance is a given. But from based on experience, and I think others will also have their own best practices. We always see to it that we talk with the line and share with them what is in it for
mhm,
them.
mm,
That's the main feature. For example, let's go to HR. You're transitioning from this particular IT platform or system to another system. The
mm,
question is, why are we doing that? So what's in it for
mhm,
us? In other words, since
mm,
we have to manage the human side of the business, meaning when you're introducing change, you should assume that there will be resistance, and one of the ways to calm down the resistance of the people is to tell them and explain to them in the reality of what's happening, and most especially what's in it for them.
okay. Eric?
Yes, okay. For us, no, yung resistance, that's no, it's actually human nature, no,
Mm.
to react, no, to changes, no. As we all know,
Mm-hmm,
we've had a lot of experiences about changes, and in the organization, especially in my case, no, where we change CEOs every now and then, no, and reorganization here and there, no.
mm-hmm,
The kind of resistance would be the biggest ones would be, why didn't you inform us? No, things like that. They were not consulted, as mentioned by Eric. This is not just an HR effort. This is a company-wide, especially big change efforts. This has to be a well coordinated effort with all the stakeholders. And this is not just an HR. Maybe HR, I would say, would be a subject matter expert as far as managing change is concerned. But all our leaders should have that competency. It's
Yeah,
a
right.
competency for all leaders on how to manage change. So
Mhm.
that's where the resistance would be when they are not consulted properly. Well, of course, I would also be experiencing those things. I would resist if I am not properly informed, if especially if I'm part of the those who will be impacted. No, so I think that's one thing that we should also manage, no, that all stakeholders, you have to think system thinking dapat you have to look at the entire
Yeah.
system as the ones being affected by this. This is not just a one department uh activity. This is a company wide, especially big ones, the big change
Mhm.
efforts.
Thank you, Eric. No? So again, certainly agree with us, no, that it's human nature for us not to be able to resist that change. And that's why I remember, no, one of my managers before also mentioned that to me that he would better, he would appreciate it more if, the reaction to a particular change effort is resistance rather than indifference. Because if
Yeah.
it's indifference, totally you are ignored. No? So resistance means there is an effort that people are putting in. They are arguing, for example, they are giving their opinions, for example. And I think as HR and audit practitioners, we are there to listen and consider what are those things that they are saying as hindrance, for example. No? What are the things that will make it easier for them? No? Because as they say, no, change for change to happen or in organizations, it has to be easy, right? But the reality of change is that it is hard. Okay? I think that's the irony of it. No? So change should be easy, but the reality of implementing change is hard. Okay. Now let me shift the next part of this discussion since we talked about the challenges of managing change. No? So the next question that I'd like to pose, to our two panelists is um, in terms of the failure patterns that you've seen, because I know that you've been through several organizations in this case, and I'd like you to share why do you think certain initiatives or transformation um, fails, at a certain point? What do you think are factors to consider why it doesn't become successful? Because we know that there will be successful and also failures in terms of change. So, can you share with us what are those factors that you've seen and observed in terms of the implementation of change in organizations?
Eric, you
Okay.
want to start? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'll go ahead. It's basically for me the big picture, or the big thing, the one big thing
Mm-hmm,
is the lack of systems, the lack of
mm-hmm,
structure to sustain these changes. Um, I can
mm-hmm,
I work with Manila Water. I worked with Globe Telecom before, then moved over to Manila Water in
mm-hmm,
1997. When Ayala won the bid for the East Concession.
mm-hmm,
And at that time, the former government agency, MWSS, was having a let's say, let's put it kindly, they were not that effective, that efficient. For
mm-hmm,
every 10, for example, just imagine it, for every 10 liters of water being produced, 7 liters are being lost in the system. Um,
mm-hmm,
the pressure is so low that water only reaches the ground floor. Anyway, when Ayala won the bid together with its partners, there are a lot of metrics. So at that time we call it commitments to government based on the concession agreement that we need to achieve. If we don't do that, we lose the contract. It's as simple as that. So the what we're saying is that at the forefront of all these changes, to help, not to lead, is HR, change management, because we need to transform the company from a typical government agency bureaucracy to a leading private company. but it cannot be done overnight. So that's, in other
Mhm.
words, what we did is that there are many interventions, as Ronnie mentioned in the previous minutes,
Mhm.
previous slides. There will be many interventions, many programs, but what would be important is to put this in a box, to put this in a structure wherein it can be sustained. For example, the company I'm sure everybody has this in so many ways, in so many names. The company has the major goal or strategies or objectives. These are then cascaded to the different groups and divisions for their own respective
Mhm.
scorecards. And then these are all
Mhm.
also cascaded downwards. And for this HR or the various departments in HR, for example, training and OD,
Mhm.
compensation, rewards management, and staffing, etc. We have our
Mhm.
own matrices and programs. And all of these are tied up to the overall goals of the company. And in the absence
Mhm.
of that, change or any HR program or change management program that at this point will just become a fad. Even if you have the most
Mhm.
successful Christmas party, the most advanced performance management system, if it is not linked to the overall goal of the company, it cannot be sustained.
Mhm.
In other words, failure beyond the first the launching normally happens because of a lack of a structure or system that will sustain the
Mhm.
effort. And when I
Mhm.
say sustain the effort, it is not HR. It is the whole
Mhm.
company. In fact, for HR,
Yes.
I consider HR as the conductor of the orchestra.
Mhm.
But somebody has to play the strings, the percussion,
Mhm.
the other instruments. But somebody has to conduct, somebody has to orchestrate, has to conduct.
Okay.
For example, in succession planning, of course, we all know that one of the major strategic programs of any company. If you say that's an HR program, it will fail. But if you say
Yeah.
it is, but normally what progressive companies like Tokayo, Nissan does, and other companies, that you let the line lead. HR is just
Mhm.
facilitating. It's just a page turner, it's just a guide, subject matter expert. But at the end of the day, everything will be led by by the line. So for me, just to
Mhm.
summarize what I've said, programs or change management sometimes fail, do not go beyond or the launching because of a lack of a system or a structure to sustain it.
Mm-mm.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you, Eric, for that. Very, again, insightful about the failure. No. Okay, let me turn over to Eric Del Castillo for
Yeah.
your insight on this.
Yeah, I agree with Eric in terms of structure, no, and there should also be a very clear framework when we start change, no, managing change. We should understand where are we coming from? Why do we have to do this change? No, siguro that's the
Mhm.
first question. Why is change necessary? Let's define the problem. Let's try to
Mhm.
understand the rationale behind that so that we would come up with the right steps or actions, no? And as you mentioned, why fail? Maybe because one track mind, no? We will only this is the problem and this is the solution, and we don't prepare contingency plans. We don't prepare scenarios, no? We have to look at it in a systems, as I always say, no? System wide, systems thinking. What if we
Mhm.
do this? What if we do that? What There should be those things, no? I've handled a lot of change in my career, and I would not venture into just one. How would I call it? One
Um,
single solution. I
mm,
would have to come up with different scenarios. And how would I
Mhm.
address this? If this fails, what would be my next step?
Mhm.
What will be my plan C? What will be my plan B? No? So that
Mhm.
you know, because you're already predicting. As we say it in system
Mhm.
management by objectives or SMA, no? Systematic managerial analysis, look at the
Mhm.
potential problem. While
mm,
Mhm.
you have not done the change itself, already look at what would be the effect if we do this, what would be the effect
Mhm.
if we do that, things like that. So I
Mhm.
think the whoever will initiate that change should be very
Mhm.
clear about the problem, should be very clear about the rationale, should be very clear about the objective, and come up with alternative actions, not just one single uh, solution that you think that, oh, this will address this problem, so let's do this. Come up with different alternatives. Plan A, plan B, plan C.
Thank you, Eric. No, and I really like that. No? That's one of the things I took take away from what Eric has mentioned. You know? And I for a fact no, also practice that. No, whenever we do some change effort, we don't just create plan A. No, we try to come up with plan B or even plan C. No, depending on how big the change effort is. No, so definitely we're seeing that in terms of the failure to implement or to sustain or change effort,
Yeah.
we can see that the lack of structure, as what Eric has mentioned earlier, could cause the failure of any change effort, as well as, of course, if we treat it as our own program, as an HR program, it's definitely bound to fail. So if you are in HR and if you are initiating programs, make sure that the program is endorsed. No? So the primary mover should be the line, and it's not HR should be the one as mentioned by both Eric, that we are there to be able to facilitate. No? So I'm seeing that somehow there's that kind of gap. No? That's why for a lot of HR, we can experience frustration or anxiety or even fatigue. No? Because definitely there's that kind of capability that we have to have, no? So that we can try to initiate change in our own organization. Now, let me go to the third part of this question, to this discussion. Based on your observation, uh, in your years of experience, no, do you think right now the current HR professional, from your perspective, are they equipped to be able to drive organizational wide transformation? And I'd like to get some insight from you. Why you think they do, or why do you think they don't, no? If there's really that kind of observation. So, Eric,
Who would you'd like to start, or I'll go ahead?
Ikaw na tayo.
Eric, yeah,
Okay,
go
sige.
ahead.
Well, I've as you know, Ronnie, as you know, Tokayo, Eric, I've been here and there in terms of conferences, and I've seen a lot of HR practitioners who are still not, not exposed, or I would
Yeah.
say prepared to handle
Mm,
OD or big managing change, efforts.
mm,
They are still in the transactional phase,
Yeah.
no?
mm,
And
mm,
that's the reason why I advocate for promoting sound HR practices. As you know, I'm always in conferences because my advocacy is to educate our fellow HR practitioners so that we would all
mm,
be helping this country, no? Uh,
mm,
go progress. It's actually nation building progress for our country. That's basically
mm,
my advocacy. And I've seen that siguro in if you say 1 to 10, only half of HR practitioners are really familiar with the term OD, no? And they are not even
mm,
familiar with the very basic of communication plan. How are you going to communicate
mm,
Yeah.
change?
Yes.
That's basic
mm,
in OD, and yet they don't even know how to do it. So I think
mm,
this effort that you're doing, Ronnie, inviting us practitioners, would be a very good venue to educate our HR leaders
mm,
who are not familiar with managing change. And basic is to that is understanding communication, planning and communication. Sadly, far from educating,
yeah,
we're far from having our HR practitioners in the level that we expect them to be.
yeah. Thank you for that, and thank you for acknowledging that the gap. No, so
Very far.
definitely I saw the gap there. That's the reason why in our partnership with World Academy, the first thing that I thought about was what could be an initiative that we can do, to be able to help our current HR practitioners, also be exposed, to the larger field, which is OD, of which as I see right now, it's highly needed in organizations. No? Yeah. Okay. Eric, also,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's hear from Eric.
Thanks, Ronnie. Salamat, Tokayo. I totally agree with what my Tokayo said, there's a gap. Definitely there's a gap. There's no way to go around it or to sugarcoat it. There's a
Mm.
gap. But let me put in another angle regarding the gap. And unfortunately, that gap is also being driven by management. In other words,
Mm.
management only expects HR to do timekeeping, payroll,
Mm.
compensation, benefits, and they're already happy with that. But
Mm.
because of that, many of the HR practitioners are also happy with that because one time, Ronnie, I was invited to speak in a big group, also online, one of the more famous or the biggest groups in the Philippines as far as HR is concerned, but on online
Mm.
discussion only. Most of the attendees were from the SMEs, which is
Mm.
actually the
Mm.
bulk of as Eric mentioned, as part of nation building. This is also a
Mm.
segment in the business that we should be able to help.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, most of people in the business in those kind of in not in even in large industries, do
Mm.
not have an idea what OD is all about, So for
Mm.
them, this is just an additional expense or just a waste of
Mm.
time, or worse, this is an obstruction to achieving our operational goals. What I'm just trying to say is when the same thing that I advise the people from the SMEs, the HR practitioners there, is that we should also be more proactive as HR people, proactive in
Mm.
in in selling what HR can do. What HR can do, that we're
Mm.
beyond the timekeeping and payroll and operations. Don't get me wrong, it's very important. It's the foundation of HR. I grew up in that in
Mm.
that in that segment. But
Mm.
what I'm trying to say is that HR should also equip themselves or
Mm.
influence management that OD can help them. And the only way to do that
Mm.
is to relate it to business results. That's why when people consult me, I
Yeah.
always tell that, hey, you cannot tell management to give you budget for X, this, and that, especially if budget is limited. But you should
Mhm.
speak the language of management, the language of the business owners that you're talking about operations. That in doing so, when you apply these principles, quote unquote OD, this will possibly influence or help management or business achieve its goals. So in other words, no way of sugarcoating about it, no way going around it, but there's still a big gap in terms of the OD knowledge practice in the HR profession in the Philippines, and we should not be constrained by what the business owners or what management is saying. Okay na yan eh, we should go beyond that and challenge ourselves to become OD practitioners so that we can have a more meaningful profession on top of what we have in operations right now, and at the same time help transform the company. That would be very, very meaningful.
Okay. Okay. Thank you again, Eric, for that. No? So let me turn over first to Aimee, no, uh, to have our short break, no, before we conclude our panel discussion. So Aimee, kindly usher us into a short break.
All right. Again, thank you everyone for joining. The discussion is really, really very good. I'm seeing a lot of good um, comments and also insights from our participants, as well as good questions. So keep them coming in. We're going to have a short break. I'd like to, at least for our speakers and panelists, I'd like to invite Mr. Towid to share more about World Academy programs while we're giving our speakers and panelists a quick break.
Yeah, hi, Amy. Thank you very much. Wow. It is such a wonderful time to have these specialists with us regarding the topic in hand today. Amazing. So just give me a moment. I'm just going to go through quickly with the introduction of World Academy. I'm not going to take much time. Just a moment. Let me know if my screen is visible. Is it visible?
Yes, we're seeing
All right, great.
seeing it clear.
Thank you.
Towid.
Thank you for giving me the platform to introduce World Academy. Well, as you guys know that we are in collaboration with Talent Reach regarding this webinar. And based on that, we are World Academy for Research and Development, and we are a UK-based organization. This is our UK registered learner provider number, and we have a prestigious accreditation called the American Accreditation Association, according to the personal certification, which is 17,024 according to 2012. Besides this ISO, we also have other quality assurance of 9001, as I've already mentioned, about 17,024. We have the ISO for 40,180, 29,993, and ISO 30,414, which is about HR management, human capital reporting. Well, the global impact that we have so far is that we have presence in about 68 plus countries at the moment, about 200 plus programs, both academic and certified programs. So it's a wide range of programs that we are offering. So far we have trained over 30,000 professionals across these countries, about 132 instructors in hand and pool across 14 countries. About 30% from the statistics that we have found is the 30% holds a C-suite role in major organizations. And the courses that we offer has a 95% completion rate at the first attempt. Why World Academy and their programs is the right choice for you is because we are one of the largest professional certification institute in UK, and our credentials are globally accepted. We do have an affordable fee. We do make payment plans. It varies from course to courses. Wide range of programs covering from professional areas like HR, supply chain, project management, accounting, finance, environment, health and safety, and also audit. Just to categorize them is that we have about 150 certified programs, 30 plus master's level programs, 40 plus diploma level programs. We have a very user-friendly learning management system, so whoever gets enrolled in a program has a very easy access to their courses. Even if they have multiple courses to enroll into, they can easily browse to the system. And yes, we do offer a additional international credential based on a digital badge, which is provided through credly.com. It is a concern of Pearson. I believe whoever is aware of Pearson knows about them. So that's a sister concern. Just an overview of the global affiliation of World Academy. We are an accredited institute by NQual. It is an off-qual regulated awarding body. We are an accredited institute by National CPD Certification, National Project Management Academy of United Kingdom. We are approved center by Cambridge Academy of Professionals, Profqual UK, and National Human Resource Certification Academy UK. We are a very proud provider of HRCI, SHRM, and ATD. I believe most of the people over here are aware of it, these organizations, and a couple of our programs are academically aligned with SHRM. And we are partnering with the KPI Institute of KPI Specialists and Academy of Business English and Communication. Our mission is to become the #1 professional certification institute and to have a presence of 100 countries. These are some of our graduation ceremonies or certification giving away ceremonies in Kenya we did last year. We did a summit in Kenya as well. The same format was followed in Uganda. There was a graduation ceremony followed by a International People Summit. And lastly, we did one in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. It was a graduation ceremony along with a professional summit. So with that note, I would like to conclude my introduction about World Academy, and I would like to say hi to Eric, both the Erics actually. Thank you for joining. I think I'm already familiar with Eric Del Castillo. Hi, sir. How are you?
Hey, so thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Towit,
Yeah, great.
for that very comprehensive introduction. And I hope our audience and our participants took away that kind of information. No? And that's the reason why this partnership between Talent Reach and World Academy, as we started it, we are trying to offer such program. No? And later we'll be making some announcements. No? So now let me jump back, no, to our panel discussion, no, because I know that I'm reading some of the comments and questions in the chat box. No? So later we will have the Q&A part. So please stay on for that one, where we will try to again answer some of the questions that some of our audience or some of our participants have given, no, as a reaction to the topic. No? Okay. To wrap up our panel discussion, no? So this will be my last question for our two panelists for this afternoon. No? So the question that I have for our two panelist speaker would be, if OD is applied properly, no, in an organization, can you give us a picture of how it is? No, let's say if you are to, tell our audience, especially if there are HR practitioners or HR professionals here, how does OD, if it's applied properly to the organization, how does it look like, or at least how would you picture it based on your own experiences?
You want me to start, Tuhayo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, based on my experience, no, as Tokayo mentioned that OD is not an HR effort. This is a company. This is a management effort. And I've seen, no, in our case, that when you apply OD principles, OD frameworks, and all those things will be better. Culture will be enhanced. Employees will be happier. Engagement will be high. Productivity will be high. Attrition will be lower depending on where you are, which industry you are, and you will have higher retention, because it is important for us to manage change. Imagine understanding employee engagement surveys, for example. If what people are saying, how people are feeling, what they are trying to look at in the next 1 to 2 years. No, if you truly understand how to read and analyze this OD tools and and interventions, you'll be able to manage change properly. You'll be able to manage the business, and you'll be able to provide sound advice to management. No, and HR is not the only one who's in charge of change, but HR is a subject matter expert as far as OD is concerned. We are supposed to be learned. We're supposed to be advanced as far as OD techniques, OD technology framework, and all those things, and we owe it to management to provide them guidance along this way. But however, in terms of managing change to the organization, it is important that we do this in collaboration with our entire management team, and of course with the support of our employees. So I've seen how organizations failed because of poor communications before, because of poor handling of change. Companies have failed a lot because of this. So I think if we have OD principles in place, and we have management support, and we act and implement this accordingly, then we would have a very successful organization.
Okay. Thank you, Eric, for that. Okay, let's listen in to Eric as well.
Yeah, for me, in very simple terms, the line or operations or the owners or top management will now see HR as a true business partner. Not a theoretical business partner, but somebody who will, for example, they will now call HR. HR, we have a program in supply chain, we have a program in manufacturing. Can you lead us? Can you help us orchestrate? You're now graduate from being an obstructionist to someone who can really facilitate at their own initiative. Not even HR will initiate anymore. So for me, that's number one. We've experienced that. And number two, as a professional, as an HR professional, as mentioned by Tokayo, you'll have a very meaningful career. I just would like to point that out. You'll have a very meaningful career because you'll be embedded in the entire business. You're no longer just an HR, quote unquote, as a box called HR, but you're now embedded as part of of the entire organization, and the respect, you will see that the respect would be there. It's HR would now be HR would now graduate from the collector of grievances or complain about salaries, about salary increases or performance, etc., rewards. But now they will look at HR from a professional point of view. If you can just manage OD, I assure you it will be very, very meaningful for you, a very relevant career for you.
Thank you, Eric, for that. No, and first and foremost, before anything else, can we give our two panel speakers a round of applause for sharing to us all this nuggets of wisdom? And again, no, you already heard it here in our webinar, so this is very exclusive for you since you are here inside the room today. So you've got the chance to listen to very experienced HR and OD speakers. No? Okay, let me turn over to Aimee first for a very quick announcement for our group picture, I suppose.
All right. Would like to invite everyone who can turn on their camera or their
Camera.
video for a quick group photo. So we're documenting this. This is our first collaboration. We're very happy with the turnout of the attendance and also the participation of the participants that's inside the room. So thank you very much. I'd like to seek the help of our partners from World Academy to take in the photo.
Yeah, sure. Please, everyone, can.
There's a lot of us in the room, so I'm sure there's different batches of photos being taken. Thank you from World
Yes,
Academy for helping us out.
yeah, just a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So keep on your beautiful smiles.
I think we have 10, slide 10.
Yeah, we have 240 from when we started and up until at this time. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're very, very happy with the turnout of this program. So we appreciate everyone.
Thank you, everyone. We have already collected all the photos. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I
So
think go ahead.
let me continue. No, so we're not yet done. We're about to proceed to our Q&A, where we will try to entertain some of your questions. So, but before we do that, just to continue, based on the panel discussion that we've had, and I do believe that we did get we got a lot of takeaways from this particular webinar. I surely did, coming from my discussion with Eric, the two Erics, Eric Reyes and Eric Del Castillo. So one realization that I've had here is that it might be different industries, it might be different leaders, different contexts, but there are same patterns. So this is one of the things that you can definitely draw out from this particular panel discussion. We can see that the problem is systemic and it's not personal. So, and again, the opportunity for us to learn OD is definitely upon us. Okay, so let me ask this question. This time, I'd like us to get a feel after our panel discussion. I'd like to get a feel of our participants. I'd like you to answer this particular question. Where your organization is today. If you're representing your organization, your company, for example, I'd like you to identify, is your organization No, we have three choices. No, is it reactive? That means it's responding to crisis, but there's no change architecture or OD is absent in your organization. Is it structured, meaning that some processes are in place? There's an OD, probably a program, but there's limited sustainability. And if you think that it is strategic, probably OD's embedded capability transformation is happening in the organization. So kindly type following keywords: reactive, structured, or strategic. No? So we'd like to see the answers from our participants. No? So please join in this very quick survey of where your organization is today by typing in your answer. So you can either type reactive, structured, or strategic. Okay, and can we try to see what are some of the answers coming from our audience?
Okay. All right. I'm seeing a lot of answers are structured, meaning some processes in place, OD seen as programs, limited sustainability. But we're also seeing here reactive, meaning responding to crisis, there's no change architecture, and OD is absent or ad hoc. There.
Okay, so thank you again, for responding to this particular question and survey. No? So, which again leads us in this case, in terms of if most of us answer that we are either reactive or structured, some probably have answered strategic. No, let me now present the gap that we have. No, so in terms of what we do, in terms of operations, and um, this is my own personal observation because I've seen a lot of HR practitioners really be involved in operations. We operate from that point, that the business sees us as part of operations. That's why we are tasked for hiring, tasked for payroll, for timekeeping, and all. No? But of course, there's that element that we would want to be in the strategic aspect of the business. Okay, so where we want to go is to be strategic in terms of our contribution in the organization. No? And needless to say, without the OD capability, the OD capability here will teach us how to transform or how an organization will transform. No? So that's why this particular missing layer is what we would want, to be able to be filled in. No? So in this question, for this particular concern, so the question is, how do we build OD capability? No? This problem of the lack of capability, the solution cannot be simply just to attend, another webinar, or another workshop. No? It must be a developmental journey for us. Okay, and this is the main purpose. No? So let me loop in. No, in my introduction, I mentioned that we had this partnership with World Academy, and Talent Reach Consulting here in the Philippines, and hence we are officially, starting our launch of our certified organizational development professional program. No? So take note that this program is not just simply a global certification. Of course, there's a lot of certification programs nowadays, in the Philippines. We all know that. No, I used to be part of CHRP, which is very well known for the entry level for HR. No? But I thought of what could be a good initiative for the HR practitioners in the Philippines, and hence this particular program came about, and I joined this program coming from World Academy in 2024. I was a graduate and a credentialed OD practitioner coming from World Academy, and because of this, I'd like to share that to my Filipino counterparts here in the Philippines. Okay, so that is an invitation for you. If you are here in the audience right now, um, this is an invitation for you to take on a journey of being a certified OD practitioner. And in this case, uh, this particular program that we're looking at would work on real challenges. No? As you've seen in this particular panel discussion, um, the panelists that we have are actual practitioners. So that means that when you get this program, this will be about practical things. It will not be theoretical, as what Eric has mentioned. OD does not have to be theoretical. It has to be business related. Okay, and that's the kind of program that we would like to offer in the Philippines. No, that we would like to get or at least groom, no, very good OD practitioners and professionals in the Philippines. That will spark transformation. No, I know that transformation is a very big thing, especially nowadays for Philippines. So there's a lot of initiatives for transformation, and I myself would like to be part of it. And this is my own contribution to be able to build the OD capability of our Filipino professionals. No? So at this point, what I'd like to do before we move to our Q&A, which is the final part of our session for this afternoon, I'd like us to be able to get some show of interest. No? So Amy will share to us in the chat box a link, no, a Google form, where we'd like to get from you, our audience, our participants, a sort of interest. No? If you are at this point of your career or journey, no, will you be interested to inquire about this particular program? So again, this is not an enrollment call for this afternoon. We would just like to get a conversation with you. If you are interested to converse with us, you can fill out that particular form. Amy, kindly share us the instructions for this.
Okay, thank you, Ronnie. Again, we're sharing the link on the screen. This isn't an enrollment form. This is just our way of actually learning more about what you would like to know about the program. So this will be an opportunity for you and for us as well to share more information. If this particular CODP program is of your interest, we can share more information. The actual program is actually by invitation, so it's not really for everyone, but definitely we would like to be able to share more details with you, and that's why we created this form for you to fill up. And we'll definitely be reaching out to you very soon after this webinar to give you more details on the CODP program that we will be launching in the Philippines in partnership with World Academy. I hope that you're able to share or click on the link. It's on the chat box. So please go ahead and fill up the information. It's just a few questions there. And definitely you will be hearing from us based on what you would like to know. Okay.
So let's
For
give
those
them
who, yeah.
let's give them a few minutes to access the link, no? And then after this, no, after you have accessed the link, we can now proceed, no, with our Q&A. So let's give them about 1 or 2 minutes, no, to access the link, and then after
Yes.
this, we can try to go to our Q&A, where we can accommodate, no, the questions that we have in the chat box, so that our panelists could also react, no, to some of the questions.
Let me share a longer one if this one is much easier to access. This is a longer. And allow me the opportunity, since I have everyone in the room, to actually visit our or World Academy's website. And also, there's also a Facebook page for World Academy Philippines. So please do search and do follow that as well. And also, of course, Talent Reach. You're welcome to visit our Facebook page and do follow us. So again, this is a partnership that we're having with World Academy, and we're really looking forward to offering this program and the rest of the program. So I do hope that you fill up the form, and definitely we'll be reaching out to you very soon.
Okay, so okay, while we're waiting for them to fill up the form, no, I think we can now initiate some of the questions. So Amy, kindly help us moderate some of the questions, and then we'd like to invite our two panelists, no, to help us answer some of the questions that some of the our audience, no, and also if you would like to prefer us for those who would like to um make an actual audio question, huh? So it's a visual question. You can just raise your hand, no? And then we'll try to accommodate some of you. For
Yes.
those who would like to
Please do wait for us
turn
to
on the
acknowledge you. Yes.
yes.
Okay, so let me just pull up the questions that I've gathered here while we're having the presentation or the discussion earlier. So let me start off with the first one that I got. Says here, what? It's directed to Eric Reyes, or I think Mr. Eric Del Castillo. And how is the transition managed? If you can answer that, Mr. Eric Del Castillo.
Okay, are you referring to the management transition? Well, that is basically driven from the region. I will be informed about the change, and usually about just about 2 3 months only advice, no? And immediately, because I already have a structured template, I know how to address those things, no? I would immediately call for, because this is a very confidential initiative in Nissan. We don't usually announce it to a lot of people. It's usually just HR, the current CEO, and legal, because of the implication of permits like visas, because these are foreigners. No, most of our
Mhm.
never had we of the eight. I think of the 8 CEOs, we only had one Filipino. So it's really managed confidentially. So I would prepare communication structure, making sure that appropriate timelines will be followed very seriously, and we cannot we have to make sure that no stone is left unturned, especially communication, because this communication has to reach a very wide audience. It's not just our employees. It has to it has to reach media, it has to reach dealers, it has to reach our external partners, the banks, and all those
Mhm.
things. So it's really, really very comprehensive communication plan.
There you go. Thank you very much, Mr. Del Castillo,
Okay.
for that very thorough answer. Um,
Okay. I think we
let's,
have some
yeah.
raising their hands. Yeah. Can we
Okay,
acknowledge them?
yes, go ahead, Mr. Jokas David. You may unmute.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
Oh,
afternoon.
Am
she's
I
a she.
audible?
Yes, yes, you
Yes,
are. Go
yes, we
ahead,
can hear
please.
you.
Okay. So, first, I would just like to introduce myself. I'm Jonas David. I am actually a young HR leader. I'm 24, and
Mm.
currently I am an HR head for organization and staff development for one of the tertiary hospitals here in Central Luzon. And one of the main
Mhm.
challenges that I have encountered as someone who is a young HR practitioner is really the resistance to change, especially when you are coming or you are working for a very traditional um,
Mhm.
Filipino led company. So, my main
Mhm.
question is, as a young OD practitioner, how will I be able to address that particular, let's say, generational gap when
Mhm.
it comes to change management?
Mm. Very good question, you know. Okay, let me turn the floor to Eric.
Yeah.
Eric Reyes, go ahead.
Eric
Okay.
Eric Reyes.
Yeah.
Dalawang Eric.
Tama.
Yeah, Eric with a K.
Salamat,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jokas. My answer would be somewhat a political answer. Meaning, you're very young and the challenges are really big. And the way to go around it is you have to find a sponsor from the top who will be able to help you. Because even if you're brilliant, even if the best ideas, but if you're in an environment wherein there are many limitations on what you can do, especially you're very young, considering this is a very traditional company, sana
Mhm.
man lang if you're in a company na kunwari fintech, average age 23, 24, 25, you can do your thing. But if it's very traditional, tertiary hospital, talagang you need to find a sponsor who can really help you. First of all, understand where you're coming from and believe in what you're trying to do. And that would be your main sponsor. Because otherwise, you'll really have a difficult time penetrating the 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 situation that you have in your company.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Wow.
Sir Eric with a
Eric,
C for that.
Ah,
Let's hear so Mr. Eric with with the C
with a
this
okay.
C.
time. What's your
I
take?
I truly agree with Sir Eric, no, Reyes, about having a sponsor because you are a young OD practitioner. But aside from that, you could also form in an OD council. You can probably call it collaborative or whatever, managing change council, whatever you want to call it, and then have someone lead. You may be there as OD consultant and have someone like the CEO. I hope could be part of that because it's a change effort. It has to be led by someone, and
Mhm.
in order for you to get support from other functions, get representatives,
Yes.
not necessarily the entire company, no, probably
Mhm.
just about 3 or 4 of you in that council that could
Mhm.
speak with authority. Because when you manage change, it has to also be authoritative.
Mhm. Right.
Okay, thank you. Uh, let's go to another one raising his hand. Jaime.
Okay. Let's hear from question from Joseph. Yes, go ahead. You can unmute, and then we'll go to the questions that we received earlier.
Joseph,
Unmute na. Siguro si Joseph. Ala, hindi siya maka...
Hindi siya
were you
naka-unmute.
able?
Okay. While we're waiting for Joseph, let's move to the question that we received earlier from the participants. Let me just pull it up. Okay. Question here is, if a company, for example, is learning towards or leaning towards changing operating model AI, what are the things that we need to consider for that transition? I think this is very timely with the advancement in technology and the presence, a very strong presence of AI. So
Mhm.
anyone can start can take on this question.
I think if I may, first
Mhm.
understand where you are right now because you're initiating a technological change, no, digitalization or AI. This is a very big change in the organization. Where are you now in terms of capability, technology? And then and then look at the gaps, no, because this is where you have to address it, no. If you need to conduct an orientation briefing, you just have to come up with a plan, no. It has to be, you have to prepare for a plan, no. And then your initiative should be approved by management and all those things, and gaining support from key stakeholders, and then until you are able to come up with very detailed step-by-step initiatives like an orientation, a briefing, a pilot. No, it's important that when you initiate big projects, you start off with a pilot as well. Because if this is very expensive, it could, as I said earlier, when we're talking about contingency plans, before you manage a big change, you can, if you may want to come up with a pilot test first before you do a big effort, no? Sir Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah. If I may add, I
Yes, go
came
ahead,
as a
please.
background. One of the companies I work with is from a very traditional, as in capital T, very traditional industry.
Mm-mm.
The talents that we had there can produce output while they're sleeping. They're that good. However, because of the changes in the environment, the competition, we need to change the business model as far as talent the talent management is concerned. So
Mhm.
now we needed to hire people from multinational companies who do not know anything about the industry. but they possess certain skills that we do not have. For example, operational excellence, the metrics, and all the other strategic manufacturing practices. So in others, it's probably it's that AI it's not heavy on technology, but it's a very heavy change as far as the philosophy is concerned. So like Eric has mentioned, may tokayo, what we did is come up with a plan on how, because you cannot just do it immediately, no? You need to have to come up with a plan and sell it to your management who've been so used to that kind of talent setup for the past century. So you need to come up with certain plans on how to execute it, and most importantly, as my tokayo has been pounding on it as early as the first part of it, is the need for the communication plan. Because at the end of the day, that will spell success or failure. The communication plan is very important, especially if the plan or the execution will touch on many people involved. So the philosophy is the same, whether it's AI or it's basically a very traditional industry, to be the same. Come up with what do you need to do, come up with a plan, execute, and most importantly, come up with the change management communication plan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I'd like to pose this question. I am reading through the chat box, so let me give this question to both our speakers. So the question is, do you think that Gen Zs in the workforce could bring OD capability in the future? What's your take on this?
Let me go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm not so familiar with the topic because when I retired, there are not so many Gen Zs, meaning in the industry I work with. So I would defer to my tokayo here.
Okay. So I think I've had a chance to work with all the generations, no, and I don't have bias about generations. Each individual is unique, and we are gifted with different capabilities. What what one generation would need would also be a need for other generations, and we are all have capabilities. I know the Gen Zs are very how would I call it? They explore a lot of things. They want to explore. They want to learn. They want to be part of the conversation. Invite them to conversation and ask for their thoughts, for their ideas. And that's the beginning of learning. And surely they will be good ambassadors of organizational change, organizational management.
Okay, very good. No, another question. I'm looking at a question from Rachel Agulto. No? So she mentioned a very interesting question about
Yeah.
how can organizational design help healthcare institutions prepare for workforce instability, no, such as migration of highly trained professionals abroad. Ayan. So I think our speakers can comment on this, which is again, no, it's a national issue, yung migration ng mga highly trained professionals abroad. So how can we try to help?
Let me go ahead, tokayo.
Yeah.
This is not healthcare experience, but in the 1990s, I worked with one of the major telco companies in the Philippines right now. And at that time, the problem was also in talents. There was a literal talent war. There was very limited number of talents that were qualified to build the two major telcos. So in other words, what I'm just trying to say is you have to be creative in manpower planning. You just for example, in our case at that time, would you believe we were going to schools like UST, LaSalle, and other schools with ECE as early as when students are in third year, fourth year. We're trying to get them already. At that time, there may even marketing joined us in those efforts. What I'm trying to say, this is a very valid issue, especially for healthcare. Very valid issue. So at this point, they should be able to plan ahead considering the risk that they have. This is not specific. This is actually healthcare, but I have an experience also. I have a friend who worked with a BPO company, but that BPO company serves healthcare, and their talents are basically nurses and other healthcare professionals. These are also their problems. So what they did is come up already with what they call a farm. In baseball, they call it minor league or farm, wherein
Mhm.
even if you don't have opening, they already hire people and put it there. They work. They're not apprentice, but they work. And it's based on a business model wherein they predict or forecast already the attrition that will happen. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. But the worst thing that can happen is you don't do anything. You get missed. The worst thing that can happen is that nobody will resign at a particular month and your oversupply of talents. But that would catch up later because of the migration issue. This is happening as we speak in some of the BPO in the business process industry, not the call centers, but basically people who supply already the healthcare professionals in the country.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, organizational design, this is looks like for me it's a complex issue. It's not just an OD, it talks about manpower planning, it talks about compensation, it talks about a lot of things. The solution here is multifaceted. It's not just organizational design. If it's an attrition retention issue, I wouldn't say that it's just organizational design. Organizational design is just one.
Yeah.
But you have to look at it in its entirety. Where is the problem coming from? Is it compensation? Is it career? Is it culture? Is it leadership? If you think that compensation is an issue, then we may have to look at your compensation structure. If the career is an issue, then probably organizational design may be a good solution. If you have problems with leadership, then we will have to come up with interventions along leadership. So it's multifaceted. There's no one correct answer. Let's look at it. If you need help, then contact Ronnie for consultancy. This I couldn't answer your questions right now because we have to look at the entire system. We have to look at the data. But otherwise, it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me also, Aimee, can you acknowledge the last?
Yes. Okay, so in the interest of time, I guess, again, thank you for those who are still here, but we'd like to acknowledge and also get a question from outside the Philippines. Can we hear from, you can unmute Mr. Lugano, Kalinga. You're raising your hand. Maybe you can share your question.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that you hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm reporting from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. First of all, I sincerely acknowledge your participation and I sincerely acknowledge your effortless flow to this HR model. My question is, in this developing arena, we have been facing that HRs are getting difficulties in terms of connecting the managers' directives towards the other employers. Sometimes when HR are in need to enforce what are the organization movements, if they want to enforce the needs of other employers to the managers are just they do not have that freedom to enforce the directive simply because they are just they do fear to lose their job and other issues. Therefore, my question is, how can a HR master the so-called effortless movement? So in a term that he or she won't be fearing from the manager's directives and the organization to move smoothly. Thank you.
Okay. Let me give the question to our panel speakers to answer.
Sir Eric, you may want to answer, please.
Yeah,
I'll follow.
I just would like to clarify first, Mr. Lugano. Is the problem coming from the employees or the managers themselves? Meaning, who are afraid of the employees or the managers?
Sir Lugano.
Hello, I think you hear me.
Yes, we can hear
You asked me who do a Friday between the employees or the managers.
Yeah,
I
just would
said
like to
the
clarify.
Yes,
Pardon?
I said it's the HR who is afraid to lose his job once he just enforces the needs of other employers, simply because the HR is the coordinator between the employers and the manager or the boss. And sometimes it is difficult for them to implement what is in the hands of the employees, simply because he is afraid to lose his job from the manager. I think you get me. You get
Yeah,
my
yeah,
point.
yeah. I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
Basically,
Thank you.
in the Philippine practice, or at least based on our experience, you have to empower you have to define the role of the managers, the supervisors, and management as to what they can do, what they cannot do. And at the end of the day, what I'm just trying to say is they're accountable for their people. It's not HR. Meaning HR should be there to equip the managers, HR should be there to guide the managers, HR should be there to ensure consistent implementation of the policies, the discipline, everything that goes with it. But at the end of the day, it will be the managers who will be accountable to their people. For example, in our case, so the question is, how do you do that? In our case, every time I go to a different to another company, we ensure that the performance management system ensures that the role of managers is embedded there. In other words, some companies would have a performance management system that measures only the output, how many products you produce, what is the cost, what is the safety, what is the complaint, etc., etc. But in our case, we embed there, especially for managers, certain people management or leadership factors that's embedded in the performance management system. Otherwise, we can spend a lot of money in training. We can spend a lot of money in all of these programs. But at the end of the day, it will not be able to implement this because the managers would just do everything that he wants to do, then it will be futile. So in other words, what I'm just trying to say, this is also part of OD. Part of OD is that ensuring that the systems are in place, all the systems are in place so that performance will be achieved. And in this case, in your specific situation that you mentioned about HR managers, employees, it shouldn't be a thing that HR would be the one who would be afraid. HR would be the one to implement. For example, this is Philippine setting, Mr. Lugano. This is Philippine setting. For example, in the Philippines, if you are to close a plant, for example, for legal purposes, it's not even incumbent upon the HR to sign documents. It's the line because it is their people. Of course, HR would be guiding and legal on how to go all about it. To make long story short, the people are under the managers who are accountable for the performance, for the development of their people. HR should only be there to guide and equip them.
Right.
Okay. So thank Amy. Kindly, let's wrap up our this. Yeah.
Okay. Again, I would like to thank everyone who put in their questions. I know that we weren't able to get all your questions answered, but I do hope that you filled up the form as well as the attendance. So those who would want to get a certificate, the link on how you're going to get the certificates has been posted by our representative from World Academy, and also the Google form we've received so far 70 plus interested participants. So definitely you will be hearing from us after the webinar. Please do monitor your inbox for the details on the CODP program. On behalf of Talent Teach and World Academy, we would like to thank our panelists, Mr. Eric Del Castillo, for joining us, and also for Mr. Eric Reyes. We do hope that in the future collaborations, you'd join us once again, as well as all the participants here. Mr. Towit, thank you for helping us in setting up and then putting this into completion. We appreciate all the coordination and the help that in successfully completing our first program collaboration.
You're most welcome, and thank you very much, Yumi,
Thank you.
for coordinating today's session. It was wonderful having everyone to this program, and we look forward to have more webinars like this, more insights about how we can do the transformation in terms of HR, OD, maybe other areas as well. Yeah, thank you from my end.
Okay. So with that, we We'd like to thank everyone who has attended for this program. So until our next program offering, so we'd like to see you again for World Academy and from Talent TV. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you,
Salamat, Ronnie.
everyone.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Tokayo,
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank
Tokayo,
you.
Ivy,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Bye.